Hello, my name's Sean Taylor. I'm president of the Glasgow Association. A very warm welcome to the Glasgow Association. Please join me as I take you in and show you both our building, our wonderful church, and our amazing history. Come and join me. Welcome to our museum. Let me show you some of the locations that we've been based in. Now, over our 160-year history, we've occupied a number of churches across Glasgow. One of the most important churches and one of the largest churches that we occupied was the St Vincent's Church. This is a famous church built by Greek Thompson, a well-known Greek Glasgow architect. This would hold 3,000 people. And we would often have services where the church was full. Gordon Higginson referred to it as the Cathedral of Spiritualism. We've also built in our time our own church, and here in Holland Street we have an architect's drawing of the church that we built, and that was built by our then president, Peter Galloway. From there, we moved to other churches because, again, once we built this, we found that it wasn't large enough to accommodate the congregation, which was increasing massively. So this is our museum. Absolutely proud of everything that we have here. Let me show you just a few bits and pieces. David de Good is a very important medium in our history. David was one of the first mediums that we had. David was a spirit artist, not a psychic artist, but a spirit artist. And I'll show you some of his work a little later on. Again, psychic photography in Glasgow and for the Glasgow Association was hugely important, and we contributed significantly to its development. Some of that history is captured here in lots of the original glass slides that we have. So this shows you the history of psychic photography, but also physical phenomena. One of our secretaries, Dr. John Winning, had a home circle. And in the home circle, they were able to photograph lots of the phenomena. And again, these are all captured on slides. But also what we've done is we've printed lots of the photos that we have on glass slides. And again, what we see here is some of the development in the home circle for Dr. John Winning. And again, some photos of Helen Duncan. Helen obviously sat quite a lot in Glasgow. So these are some of the photos that were taken in the home circle. More recently then, we've got kind of reports again on the report of the Church of England investigation into spiritualism. So there's lots of our history contained here, both spiritualism kind of nationally, but also specific to Glasgow. This is the President's Room. One of the interesting things in the President's Room is one of the pieces of work by David de Good. There are about 4 pieces of his artwork still in existence. This landscape is one of the largest that I've ever known David produced. Now, David de Good worked as a medium from 1866, and David was a physical medium. And what they would do is they would secure David into the chair, and in dark seance conditions, they would have an easel and oil paints. And 2 Dutch artists then would materialise, and then they would paint landscapes, not always as large as this. Sometimes they would use what was called carte de visite, so almost like a business card. And they would paint landscapes on the business cards, and then the recipient then would take that home. So that was David de Good, hugely important in his time. So some of the really important presidents in our history. James Robertson was hugely important to the movement across the UK. Very well known to people like Emma Hardinge Britten, Andrew Jackson Davis. Again, it's interesting that a few of our presidents have also been either vice president of the SNU or presidents of the SNU. George Young and John Stewart, two of our early presidents, were both presidents of the association, but also in their time presidents of the SNU. So we've had four presidents, either vice presidents or presidents of the SNU, and also presidents of the Glasgow Association. What's really interesting is James Coates. James Coates was our early secretary. We must be the only church in the UK that had a secretary that also fought in the American Civil War. James was born in Belfast. As a young man, he travelled over to America, fought in the Civil War, was captured and released, travelled back to Scotland, in which time he developed an interest in spiritualism and mesmerism. And then became secretary of the association, and he fought in the Civil War. So that's our claim to fame. So this is parts of the early history of the Glasgow Association. We started in 26th of January 1866, and we've been in constant existence ever since. We celebrate now our 160th year this year, and it's these men, these women, that have continued that whole service to Glasgow, to Scotland, and kind of the UK. As you go under the Glasgow Association, what you will find that each room is named and dedicated to a particular spiritualist or pioneer. We're going to go into the Arthur Findlay room, which is particularly apt, as the Arthur Findlay College is celebrating now its 60th year. So this is the Arthur Findlay room. So this is often used for education, for training, and for workshops. What we'll do is, if I take you through then to the Robert Owen room, and again, Robert Owen was one of our very earliest pioneers. And again, quite a small room, but it gives you a sense of who was important to us in terms of our association. And this leads then nicely into the Lyceum. And again, the Lyceum to the Glasgow Association was hugely important. We had the Lyceum in action up until just a few years ago. So this is the space that we'll use again for larger groups, for kind of education and training. Just while we're talking about the celebration of 60 years for Arthur Findlay College, I want to talk about the wonderful Dr. John Winning. Dr. John Winning was our one-time secretary of the Glasgow Association. He was a GP in Glasgow. Again, influential across the UK in terms of spiritualism. And what's unique about John Winning is he was the first principal of the Arthur Findlay College. So we are celebrating 60 years of Arthur Findlay College, and it's wonderful that Dr. John Winning was its first principal, but also secretary of the Glasgow Association. Let me take you into our library. Our library contains over 1,700 books and a number of special kind of artifacts for the Glasgow Association. Come and join me. As you can see, it's a beautiful setting in which to study. And I'm always very keen that people come in and use the resources that we've got. You can see kind of around the room over the library, the 1,700 books that we have. The bookcase that you can see here, again, was donated to us by the family of James Robertson. James Robertson was our twice president. So it's lovely that we still have his bookcase here. What I can show you on the table then is a number of different artifacts. Just while we're talking about James Robertson, in 1897, he was presented by the Glasgow Association with a silver salver. And I think what this demonstrates is the love and the passion that the Glasgow Association had for one of its pioneering leaders. So that was recently donated to us by the family of James Robertson. So we're indebted to Fiona Angus for that donation to us. Again, in terms of our history, we have a whole library full of photographic glass slides. And again, these will demonstrate some of the process of physical phenomena that took place in the association, but also in many of the home circles in and around Glasgow. So these are hugely important historical documents. More recently, Dr. John Winning, who was our one-time secretary, also had a home circle. And there are stories where Dr. John Winning was a member of the Lyceum. So a number of the children would be taken to the home circle. It was a physical circle. And the children would have a séance as part of the Lyceum. And they would take a record with them, a 78 disc, and Spirit would take it from them in dark conditions and play it. And that was what used to go on in the association and the Lyceum. And again, more recently, lots of kind of photographic glass photo slides, again, of different home circles in and around Glasgow. One of the things that I've never seen before is the Glasgow Association had produced a 45 disc. And this was made in 1973. And one of our mediums in the 1930s channeled Ravi Burns. And this is a record of two of the poems channeled from Ravi Burns through the medium in the 1930s. One of the greatest treasures that we've got is Hafford. Hafford was a book that was written by the home circle in which David de Good sat. And this is a signed copy of David de Good. That was published, I think, in 1876. So that's hugely important to us in terms of our history. And again, our members' roll book, which I know many churches will have, contains some absolutely fantastic signatures. Peter Galloway, who was our one-time president, Mr. John Stewart, again, who was president of the Glasgow Association, but also one-time president of the Union. And again, artifacts such as written records of home circles. Again, such a wealth of knowledge and experience that we have here in Glasgow. One of our other mediums is Mrs. Holland. She was a trance medium from 1934 up to about 1964. Again, we have a whole series of logs from the home circle, and many people visited the home circle, such as Oliver Lodge. And Oliver Lodge has signed his book, Phantom Walls, and he's inscribed it to Mrs. Thompson. And also Carl Wickland. Again, Carl was a visitor to the home circle, and again, he's inscribed it then to Mrs. Thompson. So that's just some of the artifacts that we have here in the Glasgow Association. And our history is hugely important to us as the association, to Scotland, but also across the UK. If you'd like to find out more about the Glasgow Association, you'll find us on Facebook and our web page. Please get in touch. We'd love to welcome you to our Divine and Healing services. And if you're interested to learn more about our history, then please contact us. We'd love to show you around, and we'd love to share some of the resources and the history that we have about this wonderful religion we call spiritualism.